Zoom into Wine will begin in just a moment. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. It's Ian Blackburn. It's Wednesday night. It's time to zoom into wine, and we've got a really fun lineup of rosé wines tonight, doing kind of a rosé refresher here, going across a couple of classics, then into a few more modern rosé. Talk about the status or state of the rosé market. It's been a little bit tough on rosé since we were drinking rosé all day, every day during the pandemic. I think there was a little bit of a rosé burnout, especially once you start seeing things like rosé vodka, rosé gin, rosé this and that. Um, uh, that's kind of like once they start creating a vodka with the same flavor as a wine, it's kind of the death nail is the sign, the warning sign that the end is near. And so Rosé is going to have a little bit of a hard time bouncing back, but this is a category that endures, and we've seen Rosé have many different iterations. In my youth, it was White Zinfandel that was considered the ultimate rosé, the number one selling California wine. And when you sit for an exam like WSET or studying for the Master of Wine, there's two examples that usually they go to for a California wine. One is White Zinfandel, and so rosé's got a little bit of a strange reputational thing happening. I think also because a lot of rosés in the past have been super affordable, aka cheap. I think the category doesn't gain enough respect. So we're going to work across a line of wines tonight, getting to some pretty damn respectable and fairly expensive wines throughout the flight. We're going to taste different appellations, different grapes, different producers, and just kind of check in on the status and state of rosé. Each week, I want to just kind of cover a couple of things that are happening in the wine world as we've seen a lot of adjustments um, in what's happening. There's locally here in California, we've got a massive distributor that's left the market called RNDC. They were the company I used to work for called Young's Market. RNDC bought Young's Market, paid 7 billion 8 years ago, and now they're rolling up the carpet and leaving California in only like 7 or 8 years. I'm not sure what they're seeing and why that had to happen. Frankly, it may just be ineptitude because they made so many mistakes and they had so many broken things happen to them in the wine world, but they might also be looking back and saying, "Look, I think the next couple of years are going to really be tough as to be a wine distributor, wine broker in California." Not sure why California over anywhere else. When you look at the amount of wine that we sell in California, if Los Angeles were a state or a country, it would be in the top 10 wine markets in the world. Los Angeles. I think California is like number 5 or 6. So, we should be able to sell a lot of wine here. And But I do know that there are some changing demographics. We're going to talk about that happening as we've got some people aging out, some people, the young, not necessarily adapting to the traditional. Uh, and there's this huge, massive population that's made wine very successful, that's aging, moving into an older age bracket. Some of them can't drink anymore. Some of them take meds. They can't drink anymore. Some of them own so much wine, they don't buy wine anymore. About the same thing. Doesn't matter if you've owned enough wine, you're not buying it, or you're drinking it every day, and the market doesn't know you're there. Probably the same thing as someone who's been aging out. So the wine market has changed a lot and changing a lot, and we're changing with it. And the wine market reacts very quickly. But the fact that we're looking backwards and seeing big sales in different categories and then saying, what's going on today? I think everyone's overreacting just a little bit. We do have tariff pressures. Those are going to impact prices, but that's going to impact everything that's imported. And we'll just have to see how that ends up manifesting in wine. But so all these little pressures are kind of on my mind, and some of them I even mentioned last week. But the we're going through this gradual adjustment, this gradual change, and I do predict that a year from now there'll be a lot fewer wineries in America, in the state of California, in there this will take these collective pressures, not one, but the 100 paper cut type of thing will take its impact on the total selection of wine, and we're going to watch that take place. So maybe RNDC just decided they didn't want to have to fight through it. I'm not sure, but they had like the world's best portfolio, and the fact that they just rolled up the rug, I think everyone's scratching their head. If I look a little rock and roll tonight, it's because tomorrow is a big event for us, and we got started at 6 a.m. this morning, and I have made 3 trips to the Peninsula Beverly Hills, and we've got that place packed full of great Pinot Noir, and we just set up the event, and I just made it all the way back to my office in time for this Zoom. And I need a glass of rosé, so let's begin. Each week, we take a topic, a grape variety, and we go in a little deep on it. And I want to preface that by saying, hey, it's also July. So it's usually 100 degrees in California at some point in July. Oh my God, it's been the most mild July I've ever seen. Today was epic beautiful. The sunsets have been majestic. Rosé skies around 7:30. Hopefully you can look out the window and tell me it's happening again. Morning fog. Give it to me all year long. This is like the best weather of the year, and it's usually not the case in July, but this is like the height of rosé season. Hey, Teresa Mackey, I just saw your message too about non-alcoholic. You are correcto. That's another, even young people are deciding not to participate in alcohol. So there's a non-alcoholic thing happening, tariff thing happening, the rosé glut kind of post-pandemic thing happening, the upward pressure that all wines went under because of inflation, worldwide inflation. You put a couple $1 trillion into the world economy, things like that happen. And the pandemic did a lot of that. But hey, we're all here today, and wine will be here tomorrow. It will battle back. And I do believe, by the way, these young people that are barely drinking wine, I do believe a certain portion of them, by the time they're about 35, wine starts to matter a lot. And it just takes some time. Maybe they're 36 or 37. We have to hold out hope for them. All right, back into it. Rosé time. We're going to take a look, and we've been talking about rosé. It's 2025. This is the status of our rosé. Now we're going to look first at some classics. Like we'll start with wine number one, a nice little bottle of wine from Provence. I will admit this wine's got a little bit of age on it. But this is why one of the reasons why I wanted to show this wine is that there was a lot of wine coming in the night in 2020, 2022, in between that time, and we were drinking it pretty hard and fast. And then all of a sudden, pandemic ends, got to go back to the office, got to go back to work, no drinking at home all day, and large quantities of pretty damn good wine were still sitting at the distributors or coming in on boats, and nobody told people that they weren't going to drink as much rosé going forward. And so some deals started to emerge, and this is one that we picked up on a significant price break. I want to check on it with you, see how it's going. Beautiful, fresh, light color. Provence is like one of the most important wine areas that there are for rosé. You've got different parts of Provence, and certain wines really focus in on their very specific area. This is Côtes-de-Provence, and so when you look at all of this area that is considered Provence, and you can dial it in right on the coat. It's a little bit more specific. You've got a family-owned operation that has 185 hectares, so a pretty good swath of land right near the ocean. Lavender in around April, grapes all summer, amazing uh, diurnal range, great acidity structure, wonderful soils, lots of drainage, grape varieties. Very classic selection of grapes here. Cinsault, 20% as the lead grape variety. Not a lot of Provence rosés lead with Cinsault. That's a unique feature of this wine. 20% Grenache. I'd say Grenache is typically a little bit more uh, prevalent, and maybe a more Ved would be right behind it. But in this example, 15 Cabernet Sauvignon, also a grape variety grown in Provence. 15 Syrah, there's your Mourvèdre, 13, and 2% Roll, which is a great ambassador grape variety and carries a couple different names. We know it as Vermentino. At Corsica, they call it Vermentino, but in Provence, they call it Roll. Medium bodied wine, aromas of strawberries, orange peel, and white flower. Let's check in on that first. Definitely getting the orange peel. Smells pretty nice. A little bit of saltiness. Yeah, I was going to comment about that. I pick up on that salty edge. Um, that strawberry thing, I'm not quite getting yet. Maybe I'll taste. When I say taste, I'll smell that. I haven't had any wine yet today, so let's see how it goes here. Nice cool temperature is important for rosé. Cool and crispy. This wine has doesn't have quite the intense drilling freshness that I would really like it to have. It has a little bit more body than I think that's coming back to the Cabernet. It's pretty serious wine. It's got a lot of character to it, and I like it, like where it's at. I think it is definitely in a state where it says you better drink me soon. I think some of that crisp edge has kind of faded, but there's a little bit more oomph and roundness to this wine, and it's not finishing flabby. There's still good acidity here. I think it's a very interesting little rosé. The Cinso 25% lighter skin, softer perfume, kind of being provided by the Cinso Grenache, a little soft and jammy, giving him some uh, Southern French characteristic. Cabernet Sauvignon, a little powerful. Black currant. Syrah. I think the Syrah is playing a little bit of a role here, kind of in the mouth. It's giving me a more generous character. Mourvèdre tends to be like the lead uh, uh, drill on a wine like this. And I feel because it's so restrained on Mourvèdre, maybe it doesn't have quite that pop. Roll 2% aromatic variety. Often added for some fun aromatics. 90 points on this wine. Nothing, not trying to be a 100 pointer or anything like that, but you know, beautiful Provence style, fresh, salty air, $15. And what I like about this wine is the generousness of this wine. I think it has still, some really fun things that we can do with it over the summertime. I would chill the hell out of it. I would take it out to a concert, a movie, a beach, a picnic, even in the evening times with a great sunset, some grilled fish, some great farmers market vegetables. This wine is a winner. Got a couple comments. Let's see what you're saying about it. Don't taste 90 points. Brian, what would you score it? Wasn't my score. It was Vinous.
Yes. Um, I mean,
When I do give scores, I heard you coming in, but you went away. I didn't hear what you said. But I would say 88, 89. It could have lost a point or two since it was probably tasted at bottling. But at that point, it was also, targeting a $35 bottle. So it was coming in at a fraction of the price. Maybe mark it down to 88. I'll give you that, Brian. Domaine de Terrebrune, though. This one as a 21, and this is going to be a very big benefit because Bandol is a little bit more structured, and this wine you should pay extra for an older Bandol. Bandol is, I think, the most refined, most age-worthy, biggest, beastiest, coolest rosé that there is. These wines get actually more interesting with time. And if you have a luxury, I don't sell magnums, but this is a really fun one to buy in magnums and lay them down and taste them over time. A little different grape mixture, a little different location. We're still down and around Provence, but we're considerably west, up and around the corner. And Bandol is very site specific wine, a little different minerality, and makes wines that have a little bit more structure and definition. Um, this is a really good wine brought in by Kermit Lynch, who there's a couple different brands that get some really big dollars in the Bandol department. This is a really great little brand that's still affordable and it's still family owned and operated, 30 hectares. Look at that position. You can see the ocean from the vineyard just over the hill. Wonderful little pocket. Here it is 50 Morvet, 25 Grenache, 25 Cinsault. There's some unique things uh, about Bandol. It is direct to press, but they do tend to slow it down a little bit. They do tend to take it through malolactic. Some people even use a little bit of wood barrel or maybe blend in some wood barrel. Aromatics, pink, nectarine, dried orange peel, full around with sleek, silky texture and polish, mineral finish, both rich and crunchy. Let's see. I bought the 2021 and probably 23, and oh, the nose is glorious. Get some nice like maraschino, cherry, some of that orange peel. That's awesome. This is um this is really where it's supposed to be. And if I go in and buy some more Terrebrune right now, I'm probably buying the 23 vintage. Maybe 24 is coming. I don't think it's ready yet. They tend to be about 2 years behind, whereas Provence, probably within a year after harvest, the current vintage on Provence will be 23, maybe moving into 24 right about now. Um, and the 5 years is kind of the number on Provence Rosé. But Bandol, 15 years. It's fun. Um, Not every bottle is going to be better at 15-year mark, but you could probably take it out there and enjoy it with some little bottle chemistry going on, which is what you can do with Bandol. A little darker, deeper, richer soils. I think the different exposures, the different climate, um, the different thought process in the growing. They're making a little bit different style. They know they've got some more age-worthy character. Lower yields are also a part of that. They are carrying their prices, um, pretty well. This wine's bound to be $40 plus over at this phase. I do think that because there is so much rosé in the marketplace, they're probably not able to raise price. Um, and the current vintage will be about the same price. But again, I'm going to recommend this 21 is drinking better than a 22 or a 23 with some bottle age, and it will carry forward for another decade. And you feel that mouth like tannin and structure with acidity. That's drinking great. That's exactly what you want. We'll move into wine number three, and we'll change style again. This time we're going to Tavel, one of the first appellations I got to visit. Notice that color change. We're a little bit further north. We're in the Rhone. We're in an area that makes both red wine and rosé. The red Tavels and the rosé, they can make this more in a saignée, whereas the Provence rosé and the one from Bandol are direct to press. This house been around since 1936 or purchased in 36. I think they've been making wine for generations before that too. We've got a little video I made with Andrew, who works with Kermit, who also imports this wine. Let's check this out. Now we're going to go to my friend Andrew Major, who's actually on vacation on the East Coast, taking time away from Nantucket. Andrew, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. I wouldn't miss this. So happy to be here.
Well, dude, I really appreciate you helping us out and teaching us a little bit about this beautiful Tavel Rosé.
Yes.
And Andrew, you work for Kermit Lynch.
Yes. Worked for Kermit Lynch for 2 years here in Los Angeles, or there in Los Angeles.
How do we pronounce the name of our Tavel producer today?
It's Trinquevedel. So Trinquevedel.
And we're tasting the 2021, which as a vintage in France has kind of a checkered, look because it was a pretty severe winter or a wet year, pretty rainy, a lot of hail, a lot of frost, a lot of issues. Now, the wines that come out of 2021 are probably smaller productions and probably higher selections. So we're not saying run from 21 at all, but just know that the vintage will probably be here just for a moment and then it'll be gone because it was such a small year. And 2022 is kind of a big year.
It's a big year, but I will say with 2021, a lot of us are actually running towards it because I was just there doing a 2-week trip with the staff, and the further south we got, the better the 21s got. And actually in the south, it even though it's known as a cooler vintage, things were ripened phenolically. It's really one of the best vintages in the south of France, and winemaker after winemaker were telling us like 21 is our favorite vintage in memory, or one of the favorite vintages that they've had in a long time. And we totally agree. The further south we got, the better the 21s got. And so I think, with this 21 and a lot of others, it really shows.
Let's get into Tavel, and we're focused on the Rhone Valley, so we're going to look at different parts of the Rhone map, and it is an iconic rosé dominated appellation. They do make other wines than rosé.
They do, but it's the only AOC that's made up entirely of rosé. So if you make a white or a red, you can't put Tavel on it. Only the rosés. They started and got their AOC status back in 1936, which is exactly when this chateau started up in 36.
Very cool. And it maintains is it still in its 4th generation?
Yes, Guillaume de Moulin is the winemaker, 4th generation. And it's about 32 hectares of fruit. It's all hillside. You see the color of Tavel rosés, they're typically darker and more red. And to a lot of American drinkers, they think that means sweet, that the wine is going to be sugary, and we don't like that. But in fact, it's dry, bone dry. Almost all the rosé that comes out of Tavel is bone dry.
Yeah, it's kind of like an in-betweener too, because these rosés are kind of built to age and take on some personality. And so you don't have to be in a rush to drink a Tavel. I wouldn't say you don't want to put them away for 20 years, but they are very capable of improving over 2 to 5.
Yeah, and this place historically, the wines are famous for aging because it's a very Mediterranean climate, which allows wines to get the structure in the body and the ripeness that requires long-term aging. They're getting a lot of sunshine and a lot of warmth without being super, super hot. And then the nights are pretty cool down there, and that just allows for a longer hang time.
So you've got vine age, you've got sustainable practices, you've got these, like, almost see the vine spacing here. It's untrained, untrellised. These are thriving vines that are allowed to craft their berries, and they do so in this kind of old vine notion. And you can see even here where the new vines are coming in, and they're starting to put in some a little bit more modern vineyard practices. But small operation, family operation.
Yep, yep. Small operation. I'm trying to remember the case amount, but it's not an overly large amount that's made.
Yeah, I don't see this wine in a ton of places, but you probably will find it in great French bistros, French focused wine stores. There are many Tavel producers. This is listed in the upper echelon, and 93 points is no slouchy score. The grape varieties here, we're looking at Grenache, and we're going to talk a lot today about Grenache-based wines. And another kind of amazing feature for this wine, I loved it. There's a really great price on the product, and we've taken a good position on it. I don't think for less than $20 you can get a better rosé. I don't think you can get a more classic rosé, and I'm talking about rosé of the world. Correct me if I'm wrong here. This wine is 100% direct to press, or is there a Saignée involved?
It's 100% direct press. It ferments in cold tanks for around 20 days in stainless steel, and then it ages for about 6 to 9 months, and then it's released in bottle. It doesn't go through any malolactic fermentation, so that's gonna preserve the freshness and acidity that you hope to get from a rosé.
Tavels, typically range between $25 and $45.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great value proposition. I love it, and thank you for sharing it with us today.
Yeah, thanks for making it part of your lineup.
Andrew's always there to help us out with Kermit Lynch. He has since gotten a nice promotion and is running like I think the state now. So he's done really well, and we continue to speak with him, and now his colleague who's doing most of his duties with stores like myself. They always do a very good job of training and traveling these guys, so they each have their own unique experiences and stuff like that. I'm mid response to our buddy on the chat, Brian, on a couple of things, so I'll try to not be completely dominated by the comments, but I will try to blend in the answers into the presentation here. But we just tasted 3 great classic wines of France, kind of checking in on where they're at in their evolution. Tavel and Bandol are absolutely famous for improving with some bottle age. And I think both these are showing that. We've already gone into the Bandol wine, and a young, fresh wine will have all that fruit and be very fruit oriented and almost have like an un uh, finished, unrefinedness, kind of lack of wisdom to it because it went right after fermentation. There's this just fermented smell, and it starts to integrate. And I believe that both the Bandol and the Tavel have moved into that next phase. Um, I'll talk now about the Tavel because we haven't really talked about how this wine is tasting, looking, or anything. But I love the watermelon color that you're seeing in the Tavel. Still, both Tavel and all three of the wines look fine. Um, the Tavel, because of the way it's made, a little stylistically, it's got a little bit more guts to it. It's kind of the bigger of the rosés. We kind of think of it as like a soft-bodied red wine almost. And really at this point, which I think is so much better than even a year ago when we filmed that with Andrew, you got a wine that's really nicely in balance and really has allowed the terroir to kind of catch up to the fruit. And I think it's stylistically, this is really, I mean, if I were being introduced to rosé and I tasted these first three, I'd probably fall in love with the Tavel. I think it's the most easiest to like. I think the Bandol, it remains kind of geeky and serious and has some more tannins and structure and body. The Tavel's got this roundness and richness to it. I think the way the finishes and the flavor and stuff, it's all really, really good spot. And it was actually because of the time I spent with Andrew and looking into some of the wines, I went in and bought pretty hard in 2021 um, because there was some seriously great prices. And if you look at the Tavel and at the Bandol that we're tasting today, those prices are really in a good spot and versus what we'll be paying in the future, maybe 20 to 30% less than where they're going to be at now. Probably 15% less because I think it was about a 15% discount to book when I was able to buy them, as 21 did have a little bit of a reputation issue because other regions were talking about, like in Champagne, 21 was a disaster. Um, in other parts of France, it was really a little tough. It was great in Bordeaux. It was very good in Burgundy. And now, as we get to the very, very southern part, you got wines with a little bit more restraint, a little bit more acidity, and I think that age worthiness is even more promoted in both the Bandol and the Tavel anyway. I will tell you that the Provence wine is a little bit more of a story about how it got to $15, and you can decide if you like that enough to invest in that bottle of wine, whereas that producer is scheduled to be, between 30 and 40. The Tavel is always dominated by Grenache. And in fact, with Tavel, they can sometimes add pressed wine. They do what's called saignée. They put the wine in the tank, they bleed it. They can add pressed wine. They can make, that's why it's got a little bit more of a serious, red wine type of character to it, but without some of the the color extraction, because Saignée is bleeding of the juice, but leaving the skins in the tank, which they probably go and use the rest after they bleed it. They use those skins to help make red wine. So the Tavel is kind of like first press, if you will, or virgin wine that hasn't been pressed that hard. Um, that's kind of the idea behind Tavel and the way they make it, and made a little bit differently than with Bandol or Provence. The different grape varieties. We got one new one in here, Clairier. There's about 30, I think it's 33 different grape varieties in the Rhone Valley, red and white. Clairier is one of them. You can, that's the great trivia question for, how many grapes can, or different types of wine grapes can go into a Château Neuf de Pape, and that answer is 13, where there's like over 30 different grape varieties in the Rhone Valley, and there's a lot of them that get blended in some instances. Clairier doesn't have a main wine that it's a star of. It's always kind of a background player. Syrah and Mourvedre we'll talk about all night long. Since there's that Cinsault angle again, and of course Grenache is, I think Grenache might be the third most planted red grape variety on the planet now. Here's a look at Guillaume. What's the review say? Pale garnet in color with glorious perfumes, with blossoms and watermelon. I think the watermelon came across in the color immediately. Then the perfume. Let's see. I get there. This crisp black fruit flavored rosé juxtaposes zesty black fruits against flavors against a deep penetrating undertone of crushed stones and spice, a stately expression of Tavel that likely to drink beautifully year round and for at least a vintage or two to come. $16.95. I during the pandemic, I was buying some Tavel Rosé. God, we were deliver. I would buy 100 cases at a time, and I was getting it and able to sell it. Won't tell you how much I paid for it, but I was getting it and able to sell it at around $8 a bottle. And there were lots of people on my mailing list that were getting a case delivered every other day, or maybe 2 cases or 3 cases a week. Um, Tavel is a pretty small category. Uh, I think it's really a, a tremendous wine that should be more broadly available. I wish all restaurants had a couple different rosés that you could pick on. When I go out to dinner and I look at the wine list, I see some alternative rosés on the list, but I really think the classics are important. And the Bandol, Tavel, and Provence kind of trifecta that we just tasted, these are really where rosé, originates from. It is the spot, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts about some of these wines. All right. Gonna go back into our slideshow. If there's any questions, let me know. I like I said earlier, we spent so much energy. These events almost kill me because there's so much to coordinate. But we have 40 wineries coming to the Peninsula Beverly Hills tomorrow. I have 200 wine buyers coming during the day, restaurants, wine shops, Uh, that's what we produce the events to do. And then at night, we raise a little money for charity. And in fact, I'll make sure you get our charity silent auction link tonight. I'm going to put it, if I can, let me see if I can put it in the chat box. It'll be closed by the time someone sees this video because we won't produce this video for a day or two, but my computer is just killing me tonight. Come on. Every time I click on something else, the slideshow is advancing, and I apologize. I hope you're maybe not seeing that on your side, but maybe you are. Let's see. I want to give you the. There it is. I can grab it there. Okay. And now I can put it into the chat. I'm going to drag it in there. I don't think I can. Well, it looks like it worked. So if you open that up and you shoot it with your phone or something, you'd be able to explore. We've got 13 auction lots. They range from 3 packs of Magnums to 6 bottle boxes, and those are all of our auction lots that we put together with the different producers. There's like a Oregon batch and a Santa Barbara batch. And we raised money for Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We've raised over $1 million career to date, and then multiple millions of dollars with the other organizations we work with. But I feel very good about our little company. You know, these are not charity events that are wine tastings. They're wine tastings that have a little charity auction. And so, if we raise $5,000 or $10,000 for the charity, that's a big deal. We're not striking a gavel and trying to, bid up an experience or anything like that. Most of it's usually wine, and that's what's on this auction lot. There's 13 wine auction lots, and we started the bidding off all of the lots, I think at $25. Some of the lots are worth $1,000. So I said, let them bid up naturally. Go in, just start. We just opened the auction today. Bid on something, get outbid. That's the best way to raise money for charity, is to not even have to pay a penny, but you took the auction from $25 to 50 or 50 to 100, whatever. Every lot will find its price, and you'll be able to take advantage because you're early on. They do incrementally jump $20. So maybe an auction lot for $100 is worth it to you, but 120 is not. Get in there early and make it tough on somebody else. You ready to move on? Let's do so. We're going to move into wine number 4, our best-selling wine of all time. I've had a long relationship with Backsberg, and during the pandemic, I think we carried every wine that they were bringing in. They changed distributors. We helped them clear out a lot of inventory. We've had some great pricing on this product. It's really sturdy. South Africa during the pandemic was a mess. They couldn't even sell wine in South Africa during the pandemic. So they really needed some help. We really sold a lot of Backsberg, hundreds of cases. And a lot of people really liked it. It's something different, something unique. This is Pinotage Rosé, the grape variety Pinotage. Does anybody know what the 2 grape varieties are that were spliced together to create Pinotage?
I'm guessing Pinot Noir is one.
You know, I believe it is. I think it's Cinsault and Pinot. Let's check the Google machine and make sure. Pinotage. Answer: Pinot Noir and Cinsault. Formerly known as Hermitage. That was the name that they gave it. I'm pretty sure that the region of Hermitage was pretty pissed off and said no. And so they came up with Pinotage as a result. There's a lot of different personalities for Pinotage, but the Pinotage grape variety was really kind of created to knock down what South Africa had working for them, because South Africa's weather is amazing for growing grapes, but they're going to grow grapes that are a little bit more like California. And their market, when they got started, their market was definitely Europe. Europe was having all kinds of issues, and they needed another source of wine. And here comes South Africa to the rescue, but the wine was maybe too ripe, too fruity. And so they created this variety, Pinotage, to kind of take on a little bit more of a European, earthy, savory type of personality. And now there's all, it's like Zinfandel. It can be grown very ripe. It can be grown very underripe. It all kind of depends on the personality of the producer. And I think Pinotage is it's always kind of a mystery as to what you're going to get. I'm not going to defend every Pinotage as being great, but I carry a couple of good ones. And this, like I said, was part of the equation. This one wine, I'm not saying that we were the first to carry this wine, but we were the first to really go after it and promote the hell out of drinking it during the pandemic. And it just took off. I mean, we're talking literally hundreds of cases we sold. So nothing is even close in the volume that we've carried over time. I mean, it was partly price. You'll see that this is still a great deal, as are all the wines from South Africa, as we are buying in dollar and they are selling in rand. We can get a lot of value for the dollar. And I do love the value proposition that we get out of South Africa. This estate dates back to 1916. They have been incredible about their ethos, taking care of growing grapes without chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, taking care of their vineyard workers. They educate their vineyard workers. They provide medical care. They do all kinds of stuff that the normal winery just doesn't do. This Pinotage Rosé is 100% Pinotage. I think it has this wonderful, juicy, almost sweet is a bad word to use, but I'll say riper cherry, fruit oriented, but with really good acidity. Color's lovely, kind of like surprisingly punctuated in color, maybe a little bit even like the Tavel. I like the little difference that you get with the Pinotage. And it's kind of that fruit. And there's just something a little extra there. There's our winemaker. Looks like I gave it a pretty decent score back in 2020 as well. If you've never been to South Africa, I've been on a couple of occasions, and in fact, started flirting with the idea of trying to get back there. It is unbelievably beautiful. It is like Jurassic Park meets uh, vineyards. There's so many incredible physical features, but the ocean, the different mountain ranges, the different soils, the people that live there come from all over the place, really gives them a chance to do something that they've always wanted to do, a lot of entrepreneurialism, and a lot of Americans down there too. Surprising considering it takes 36 hours to get there. We always carry this wine in decent supply. Look at that price, 12 bucks. Just a really good, fun, dependable, generous wine for the price. Wine number 5, one of my favorite producers of recent. This is Gallica. They make estate rosé off their property in the Napa Valley, run and operated by the beautiful Rosemary Cakebread. Rosemary was a winemaker at Spotswood. She buys all of her fruit that she buys from her vineyard manager on her estate is Phil Cattori, and she buys Phil Cattori fruit from other vineyards as well. So I carry a Grenache from Sonoma that she's sourcing from Phil Cattori that is absolutely stunning. I do believe I bought it for myself. It is a wine that I think will just be really beautiful to introduce some people to. We may use it in a future Zoom. But let's see what you think of this rosé, because there's a little something different going on here. Look at it's almost like a golf course, Target Golf out there, little slice of vineyard out in the far. This is 80% Petite Syrah. It's pretty different. 20% Cabernet, which this is what she grows, Petite Syrah and Cabernet on her property. And she's a magnificent winemaker with a really artistic edge. Much like Pinotage, whereas 2 grape varieties kind of created for a reason. So was Petite Syrah. It's a cross of Syrah and Pellerzin. God, why couldn't I read that? Pellerzin grape is it's a weird varietal that you don't see very often. Some people even kind of refer to Petite Syrah and say, "Oh, Pellerzin or Durif," but because Durif is kind of the European name for Petite Syrah, it is a Rhone grape variety. It has very thick skins. They created this grape variety to add color to the European wines because a lot of the European wines were too thin in color. They planted the grape in California, and whoa, did you know that there used to be more Petite Syrah planted in the Napa Valley than there was Cabernet? Did you know a lot of the Cabernets in the 1950s and 60s, and even a wine like BV made a wine called Red Burgundy back in the day? It was made from Petite Syrah. And that's why if you opened a 1968, 69, 70 Burgundy from BV today that had 12% alcohol, it would still be purple from it being Petite Syrah, and it's still so delicious. Back then, it was about $6 a bottle. Today, BV Burgundy, you pay between $200 and $300 for that 68, 69 because aged so well. Anyway, Petit Syrah, a lot of fun. I used it to help me make my Zinfandel. A lot of people used it to help make Cabernet delicious. Here it's being used because she really wanted a wine that compared to her favorite rosé, which is Bandol. And remember back in the Bandol in the beginning, we were talking about its structure and its ageability. Got a fun nose, lots of like spice and currant, and it's light on its feet. If I didn't tell you Petit Syrah, how would you have tasted the wine? Um, it's not, it doesn't have the power of Petit Syrah, although for a rosé, I think it has wonderful persistence. That's what I really like about it. It's not trying to be generous. I think it's very edgy. I think it has just a really good balance to it, which is kind of like the marquee of rosemary cake bread. The balance factor. She could take these monumental grape varieties in a place like Napa or Sonoma and just make them art. And when you look at her bottle, it's just got a little squiggle on there. She does so little to make it so cool, and not very much made. Just a little bit. She probably pretty much only sells it at the winery. I brought some in to be kind of edgy and fun and different. No one's gonna have Gallica Rosé except for me in their store. Teresa, did you get caught up with us? That was wine number 5. I just saw your comment. The Backsberg Pinotage was number 4. The Tavel was number 3. The Bandol was 2. And the Provence Rosé was number 1. Hope everybody's doing okay. I have been thrashed. I don't know if you guys know how much I love my Dodger baseball, and they're playing like the worst baseball in all of the baseball kingdom. They've lost 10 out of 12 games, and I went to the game last night. They look disheveled. I watched the pitcher throw the ball into the right field corner, and the batter check swinged, the ball bounced into the air. I'm like, oh, that looks like it's trouble. Bases were loaded, and the pitcher threw the ball to the right field corner, and all 3 runners scored on a check swing nibble. And that was just like, and then earlier in the game, a player came up and practically fell on the ball, and it went to the left field corner for like a triple. It's just nothing could possibly go right. And then when the Dodgers have a chance to do something well, they're not doing anything well. Ohtani is swinging for the moon. I think he's hitting. The problem is you can't tell him to stop because he's hitting a home run like every single day, but his swing looks like he's going to break something every single time. And of course, then there's the pitching, which is just horrific. Horrific. Anyway, I need
And
therapy.
those are the highlights.
Those are the highlights. Yeah. It's been tough. All right. So anyway, back into our rosé promotion. We're going to finish with something pretty special. There's the Gallica at 40 bucks a bottle. If going forward, we had these rosés, 21, 22, 23. People were kind of genuflecting back and forth. Oh, we're going to be serious. And rosés, got a little commoditized. I think in 23, a lot of people kind of took their foot off the accelerator. And the people that are going to make rosé going forward, they're going to be like, F it. If I'm going to make rosé, I'm going to make good rosé, and I'm going to sell it for what it needs to go for. An estate rosé from St. Helena. Um, she is not going to discount this wine. And she only made 100 and something cases. Her mailing list probably buys almost all of it. It's really not even available in the marketplace. Speaking of price point, we'll go into Realm. This is one of the ultra premium juggernauts in the Napa Valley. If you haven't heard of Realm before, I'm very excited to talk to you about it. If you have heard of Realm before, not very many people knew they even made a rosé. This is called Precious Twin. All their bottles have got some really cool label art. It's even cooler in person, I think. The Realm is in a very cool and historic property that has been completely torn down, replanted, and basically it's like a brand new winery, a building, cave. Everything about Realm is like top state of the art, spare no expense. They built the property into the hillside. You only see the top of the building, the bottom of the building where the winemaking is done in these beautiful terracotta. Uh, they've got these amazing concrete tanks, the best of all wood programs. They actually have been buying up land, even in the face of very high prices, buying some really expensive vineyard land. And now they make a good amount of wine. They have at least doubled their production in the last 2, 3, 4 years. That might not even cut it. It might be like they've grown fourfold in their total production. They've got a great team. Benoit Troquet is the winemaker. Here's a look at the property. This Merlot is 90, I'm sorry, this Rosé is 90 Merlot and 10 Charbonneau. How cool is that? No one's making Charbonneau, and yet they made a Rosé out of it. Raspberry, watermelon, strawberry notes. Couple of fun facts. Merlot, I was a salesperson when Merlot was outselling Cabernet back in the 1990s. I've seen Merlot hit rock bottom. I think Merlot is absolutely on the hunt to come back in. There's some absolutely fantastic Merlots coming into the marketplace. There's some classics that have been ignored. Where did all the Merlot go? Well, ask the folks at wines like Menage a Trois, which doesn't tell you what the grape variety is. Guess what? It's mostly Merlot. And that's the number one selling wine in America. So is Merlot really dead? Well, as a name brand, Merlot's got some work to do, but the fruit is still being sold and drank, whether people know it's Merlot or not. When I go out to dinner, and I often go to one of my wife's favorite places, is the South Beverly Grill. You can go and look at the wine list, And for 50, 60 bucks a bottle on a wine list, you can buy a bottle of Merlot. And whereas Cabernet is like $40, $50 a glass for the same quality. And I think Merlot is just really a great option. There's a lot of value to it. It doesn't have a high price as far as its fruit goes. So the Napa Valley Cabernet is selling between $7,000 and $10,000 a ton. Merlot's probably selling for 2,500 to 5,000, and there are some vineyards that still even command a pretty strong price. As far as Charbonneau goes, I love Charbonneau. There's some really decent Charbonneaus being made. And Charbonneau is also known as Bernarda in Argentina. I carry a couple of wines that feature some Bernarda in the blend. But it's not the first grape variety you come to think about. And the fact that Realm is using it in their rosé is kind of fun. So Realm is kind of like a hedge fund. Scott Becker used to work for Harlan, and he put together his financial expertise. He helped buy and sell and buy and sell, a couple of wineries that made a lot of money selling a couple of times, involved in Duckhorn, involved in a couple of other projects. And so he's very fiscally gifted and has a lot of investment coming to him. And so when Realm got started, they were very well funded, and they've spent a lot of money and have taken a large position into the future of very high-end wine in the Napa Valley. Their rosé, which is almost non-existent as far as production, carries a $73 price point. Got kind of a fun little salty. It's kind of generous and then finishes kind of salty, lip smacking. And I think rosé is supposed to kind of quench your thirst, revive your senses, warm day wine, but it can be drank all year round. And I just want to kind of go in and take a look at our rosé selection and answer any kind of crazy questions that are out there. I've got a lot of questions coming in from Brian, so now would be a good time, Brian, to talk about some of those things. And I welcome those questions now. When I put my little selection together, rosé, as we started the conversation off with tonight, been a bit of a challenged category, so I've been pretty careful about how much I'm trying to put a position on. I like having a unique selection. I like avoiding my selection to look like anything like you're going to see at the grocery store, but I don't want to be too uh, heavy in any one particular zone. So I took a good position on wines like Bandol. Um, I sell a couple of the exotics like the Gallica, the Château l'Aube, little Domaine Haute, although I've sold a lot of Domaine Haute recently and I only have the Bayat remaining. I carry a couple of interesting ones, like from Corsica, where I think it's quite delicious. And of course, there's endless numbers of bubbles. I've got a fantastic Nebbiolo. Here's another one from Corsica, which I'm going to be visiting next year. So got kind of an overly fun Corsican selection. We're going to go to Corsica and Sardinia. From Lucy Wines, which is our friends in San Lucia Highlands. This really delicious little California offering. The Muga has been doing really well. We had a chance to scoop up a really nice chunk of Muga recently. So I'm got a really nice price point on the Muga. Um, and then everything else is a little bit more value oriented because a lot of people just want something that they can pound on the porch, which is what a lot of
Swath.
people, yeah, they can drink it all day long on the porch. And this little wine from Greece is something I wish I had enough of it to include it in this show. I think we're down to like 4 or 5 bottles of the Apla. Really cool. Little producer from up in Drama, and yeah, I look for some fun little things to accentuate our selection. So, any questions now would be a great time to ask them. We conclude our presentation today by looking at well, my almost every screen I've got open. There we go. Next week's Zoom, we're going to be doing top Pinot Noirs of the world. We've sold quite a few Pinot Zooms. We'll have a very large audience next week. The wine list is outstanding. Take a look at it if you can, and join us for this particular flight. We're at $39 for next week. Looks like we got 6 left. We're going from Burgundy to Sonoma, down to Argentina, to Oregon, to back to Burgundy, back to Oregon. So really a high-end slice of some top Pinots of the world. I think that selection is killer, and very excited about that. We have produced Zooms through the end of the year. You probably don't see everything out into December yet, but we already know our entire calendar into December. It's just our artist, who is a fashion model, balances her fashion career with design for our website, and she will be catching up here, coming out of a pretty busy moment for her. So, but we've got Zooms all the way through September on the website right now, going from Pinot to Chardonnay, Loire Valley, Argentina, Big Italian Reds. And as always, thank you. And I see a couple of chats, so I don't want to ignore those. Brian, what kind of questions do you have for me tonight? Looks like Dragonette,
Um,
favorite wine of yours, potentially.
um, let's see. Um, can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, all right. So for some reason my camera is disabled, and it's probably because of you know, Norton. But uh Dragonette has elegance into their winemaking, and they've done that with the rosé. So I was wondering how their rosé, which is again is a $30 wine or so, fits into this array that you've gone ahead and lined up.
Well, I think there's a lot of very good rosé ever produced. So the problem for rosé is that like every single winery responded to the market, and rosé became part of their lineup. So you've got 2,500 wineries in the state of California, with all of them making a rosé. And I bet you money that Dragonette could tell you exactly the same story that we talked about tonight. You go back to 2000, 2001. and the guys at Dragonet are good friends of mine. I love their wines. I carry multiple SKUs. Um, and I don't carry the rosé. I've carried a lot of Jeff Nelson's rosé from Liquid Farm, and the category has not just been cut in half; it's been sliced down to a tenth of what it was. So, from a business perspective, rosé is really a much smaller thing, which is good because they can make less and they can do it well, they can do it right, and they don't have to make a volume of rosé to respond to some unnatural condition. At Dragonet, they're working with grapefruit, and they don't mess around with anything that's not grapefruit. And so I think, a producer of merit like Dragonet or many others, they're going to make a bottle of wine that they're going to be proud of. And so,
So, uh,
stylistically, where does it line up? Is that the kind of the question?
you probably
Yeah. So I think, I because I don't own the Dragonet Rosé, but I know the guys
have.
there.
Have
Uh,
you tasted it?
yeah, in years past, but I haven't tasted it recently.
Okay. All right. Okay, so it may not be a relevant question for this lineup, but
Yeah.
the next part of it was that you had mentioned earlier in the discussion here on how do you make a rosé ageable?
Well, it starts with the quality of the fruit that you're going to work with.
Yes.
And then some, like in Bandol or in Tavel, they might, with Tavel using a little addition of some red wine, Tavel using a little bit more skin contact. Um, those things help.
Okay.
With Bandal, it's about the quality of the fruit and also the high. They're not making volumes of wine. They're more focused on quality oriented winemaking practices, and their price point's higher, and their fruit quality's higher, and they're potentially also introducing longer times of winemaking, slower release points, so they're making wines that are supposed to be matured. So uh, there's a fast and furious way that helped Rosé become quite a fun business model that everybody dived into. Hey, let's make Rosé. Let's put it in a can. Let's make everything Rosé. Let's make 12 Rosés. I've seen it all. I had a guy once come to me, his whole idea was to sell a rosé from every country. And I said, that's a terrible idea. I mean, it was you got to be good. You got to either be known as a good rosé producer or a cheap rosé producer or something, but being, you know, the holder of something from everywhere, that doesn't serve anybody because there's going to be at some point a culling of the herd, and sure enough, his company went away pretty quickly. And you need to be nimble in this business, and you need to be responsible, and you need to be responsive to the conditions of the market. And I bet you anyone we could talk about any particular producer in the 2025 vintage versus past years, they're going to make a very small and defined amount of rosé. They may love rosé, they may want to have a rosé, but are they going to be pushing it into the marketplace real hard? Probably not. They're going to
No,
be
no,
pushing it
no.
on the tasting room and guests that are coming, wineless customers. They hope to be sold out of it in 60 days, Brian. They want to put it on the market and it's gone. Um, they
Sure.
hard
It's
stock
it's it's
over.
ca- it's it's cash flow.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
well, it is unless it doesn't sell, then it's
Yes.
oh shit, we didn't sell the rosé. We got to blow it out. So we lost a lot of effort and we're selling it below cost. So, and I think the market is still kind of ingesting where we're at with rosé. And I think, it's very fascinating for me to see the rosé response. And I think what's really kind of like making me scratch my head, I'm selling more rosé champagne than ever. And I'm wondering if
That may be the lower alcohol, interest in the market.
nope,
No,
nope, not lower alcohol. I just think it's maybe a progression. Maybe they've moved out of dry rosé and they've moved into the bubble, or maybe uh it's just fascinating to me. I can't really explain it, but I'm not alone. I'm reading the newspaper, the news about sales, and champagne as a category year over year is flat, but champagne rosé is up 14% over last
hmm,
year. So it's not just me, it's the world.
it's
And
a niche.
I'm trying to figure it out. Well, why is dry rosé down so hard and bubble rosé up? That's a pretty big jump. And
So the other question here was the organic biodynamic and sustainable market in general. I mean, Ampelos was, I guess one of the first in the U.S. But
I don't know about first, but they're
well,
certainly
at
check
least
all those boxes. Yeah.
yes, yeah, and to go ahead and get all of them.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
but at the same time, it also goes ahead and degrades from the fruit. When you can go ahead and it degrades from what you have to work with, and you have to change your winemaking process in order to go ahead and accommodate for that, although it may be healthier. So, taking that into consideration, how the winemaking, industry has gone ahead and adapted to the grape growing process versus the wine making process.
Okay. So you're talking about how, I just want to repeat back the question,
Uh,
see if I'm on the track. So because they're growing the grapes sustainably or biodynamically or regeneratively, um, uh, how have they had to change their winemaking, or what have they done to adapt to making wines with that type of certification in mind?
in order to go ahead and get the high points.
I see. Well, I think again, the the core, the the real secret to making great wine is great grapes.
Yes.
And even the guys at Dragonette, as good and as talented as they are, they're probably their greatest skill is that they have done such a good job for so many years that the best vineyards want them to buy their fruit. Oh, yeah, sure. Every great vineyard wants to sell their fruit, but they want great people to buy it so that they can turn it into great wine. And it's like a self-fulfilling situation where you bought grapefruit, you're a great winemaker, therefore you're going to make great wine, and then the cycle just continues. And there are a lot of great vineyards that are out there, very famous vineyards, and maybe the supply of that fruit has gotten so large and so expensive that they're now letting not great winemakers make wine with their fruit. I don't want to name names, but there's some very famous vineyards that all of a sudden everyone and their mother are able to buy this famous fruit. And I don't think that ends well, because they will probably fail, not make the greatest wines. They will maybe even have to discount them. It will cheapen the brand. So if you're a great grape grower and you own great vineyards and maybe they have all the ethos, you want the very best people to buy your fruit, and you want them to love buying fruit from you So they come back every year. Therefore, you don't have to sell fruit to the little guys that maybe not don't have their eggs all, all put together right, and they have problems and they trip and fall and kind of blow it. And so that's, kind of the cycle of the business. And I think, going back into the Dragonette discussion, if I were a grape grower in Santa Barbara, I would want to sell, if I could, I would want to sell my fruit to Dragonette, as they do things so well. And they're just really good stewards and good business people, and very loyal, and that all those things serve them very well. So that's, I
Well,
think, those are
yeah,
some of the things, some of the
and Bill Gibbs is in the other situation of going ahead and having the vineyard, um, trying to maintain the best of the winemakers.
I don't know who Bill Gibbs is. I'm sorry, but
G2,
oh yeah, okay. So you
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
jumped up the
Yeah,
pot. So
Saxon, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
Saxon's going full estate.
that's right.
So
That's right.
yes,
Yeah.
and
So
so
he's trying
he's
to
been
take control of his destiny a little bit there too.
yes,
And
and but he has gone ahead and managed Bill Gibbs vineyards, and but at the same time he's going full estate now because he now has the land, and Bill has to go ahead and replace Saxon.
hey, that kind of just falls right into what we were just talking about.
Yes.
Now he's going to be selling his fruit to anyone and anyone that will pay that price. And will they have the same type of success as Saxum? Good luck. That's but I think Mr. Gibbs has got some great vineyard holdings. So, the problem is that there's probably way too much fruit out there. And maybe some of the fruit prices will have to come down a little bit. We can all blame everything, fires and labor costs, and you know, all these things were the reason why we are where we are today. But tomorrow and next year, I think we're going to have to get very creative, and the best vineyards will probably have fewer problems. But there's too much wine, too much wine out there, too few customers. There'll have to be some hard decisions be made, and the balance will come back. Wine will react. The best wines in the world will have no problems. The best producers will be selling them just like normal. It's the other guys, the outsiders, the little guys, will have some challenges, and fewer of the little guys will come out on the other end than started. And that's just the nature of all businesses, but particularly right now for the wine industry, this is going to be a grinder, and it's going to clean up the business a little bit in a not so subtle way.
Well,
And
the opportunity for you is
yeah,
that you can come back through and be promoting those who are going to be able to go ahead and sustain themselves through this, and be the one who said, um, they are the ones.
well,
So,
honestly, you're tapping on something there too. Um, let's talk about that for a second. Right now, there's a lot fewer restaurants out there that are buying great wine.
yes.
Uh, a lot of new restaurants that are coming online, they're opting for different type of wine programs, softer inventory costs, not going, 15 pages on a wine list, going down to a single page, maybe a column or a half column of whites and a half column of skin contact, this and chillable reds. They're it's a new day. So where does all this great wine go? And we've got fewer
Is
overall restaurants. So
reduce corkage fees.
maybe that's a great solution. I do think restaurants could end up making those calls, but the corkage fee could be a great way to get better wine customers to come in the door, whether you have a great wine list or not.
Yes.
And a lot of the best wines that are owned already, people love to take those out to dinner. I would love to be in a restaurant and help advise them, say, hey, how about having a corkage fee? I think corkage is fine. I don't think
Sure.
anybody
Sure.
not pay
No,
corkage.
and I don't mind paying a corkage fee.
Yeah. And um, maybe it's even a firm corkage fee, but if you buy a bottle, you can get a reduced corkage fee, or maybe one way to buy one, bring one. I love that. And I think that works, for my lifestyle. And I think that restaurants should allow people to bring wine. I think that that's going to be healthy. Now, the benefit my store has is that 5 years from ago, and maybe 5 years from now, um, I go out and I hunt for the treasure, and I go to the distributors that have the treasure, and I ask them, "Hey, do you have any treasure?" And they're like, "I'm sorry, I can't sell it to you. Maybe it's spoken for, it's the word allocation. There's restaurants that have been getting some of these wines for years. Well, guess what? They're not buying that stuff.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah.
I'm I'm actually in this moment, like, getting offered so much treasure. I don't have enough capital to be able to bring it all in. I mean, some of it isn't the fastest moving stuff in the world, but damn, if you want to be sitting on stuff, you want to be sitting on treasure. So I'm trying to balance that out. Not the easiest thing in the world,
Well,
but
you need a mailing list. It comes back there and says, this is my treasure mailing list, so
yeah,
that when they come in, those who want it can grab it.
yeah. Well, that's the name of the game in wine retail. I mean, we have a wonderful mailing list. I'm not sure I have always been in the treasure business, so I don't
Yes.
think that I have the biggest list of treasure collectors. Um, and the very interesting thing about the treasure department is that, for if I'm off by $1, someone's going to buy that same bottle of treasure somewhere else for $1 less. It's not the most loyal customer. I will have a customer come in. Today I had a customer come in from New York and just clean me out on something. And I looked, never bought anything from me before, probably will never buy anything from me again. And I almost wish there was a way where I could be like, you don't get all my treasure, but you can't really block people from buying it. It doesn't work out. I've tried some different things, but sometimes the answer is just not putting it all on the website, which is like owning a car dealership and keeping half the cars in the back. That just doesn't work either. So
It's still cash flow.
yeah, you gotta have cash flow. You gotta be able to pay the bills.
Yep. Yep. Got to do it.
And so it's a pretty interesting moment. I will say that I'm watching, the number of transactions actually get a little bit from a month over month basis. This July, our transaction count is doing pretty well. But what's mind blowing is the average size of the transaction is much higher, and which continues to reinforce an idea that I've been saying out loud for a while, that there's a very wealthy group of people in the United States right now that are spending, and there are people that have little money and they're not spending. And so, those that maybe they're wealthy financiers or whatever they're doing, they're coming in and they'd see, okay, here we are, July 23rd. What's next? Well, what's next is a possible massive tariff on fine wine that will completely change the price. If you put 30% tariff on a $10 bottle of wine, that's not going to change things. You put that on $1,000 bottle of wine, that's going to change things. And so people are coming in and cleaning me out of very expensive wines right now. So our transaction size has gone nutso. And that's really an interesting thing. It sounds good, but the problem is, going out and buying the replacement cost is it's in a different stratosphere. So you don't just go out boldly and say, "Oh, I just sold the 2009 Chateau Lafitte's," and go and buy, the next opportunity vintage, because they already have gone up significantly preparing for some of this tariff action. So it's going to be very interesting. And the high-end market is really still, I mean, they're very opportunistic. They're buying ahead of the curve, and you can get into a trap thinking that they're going to keep buying, and as soon as the market changes or adjusts, they stop buying. It
But
just
you can also get into a trap that you go ahead and replace it.
yes,
And again, and so, one is to go ahead and bring in the cash flow, go ahead and, sell what you went ahead and were preemptive in purchasing earlier, and
yeah.
then come back here and say, what's the new trend?
Or or what I tend to see is that there's like this vast pause where, okay, so the wealthy collector went out and bought everything they needed to get from this point to the next point, and they're going to drink it and enjoy it, and they won't start shopping again until that window opens where they're like, okay, now's the time to buy, because I think it's, it's a great vintage, or it's limited, or it's going to go up in price. And they buy different, they have different inspiration for buying. They're not, and they're certainly not buying for this Friday. They're buying for, you know the long haul, the long big seller. So it's really a interesting moment to see the way our stores being addressed. I'm learning a lot. I've only been doing this for about 5 years. And, when I started in the pandemic, we were very much responding to the need and the opportunity. People wanted wine, they wanted a good value. I was buying it from, whoever I could get the value for, or helping restaurants. I was helping distributors. I was clearing out inventory. And then I said, okay, we're not going to be this isn't going to be a short-term thing. This is going to become a longer-term thing. And I started to address, improving the selection, improving the integrity of our list. And it can almost see getting into a problem where I go too far, buying too much high-end stuff and not enough stuff for kind of the customer that I've always kind of been able to keep and make happy, which is kind of like the person that should be buying it for maybe this Friday or next Friday in the next near term. And I want to make sure I stay responsible and stay responsive to that client, because that's where I come from. I don't drink Chateau Lafite. I do when
Well,
I get to.
yeah. Well,
If you're
this
invited,
this, this Saturday we just had a cellar barbecue, and we must have gone through for 40 people. We still went through $3,000, $4,000 worth of wine.
yeah.
So the collectors are going to, they're they're going to go through the wine. They're going to pull out, you know, $400 bottle of wine if they have a crowd to share it with. So that's going to continue to happen.
Well, I we all need more friends like that.
Yeah,
Isn't that what's great about
it
wine?
was a tasteful weekend.
That's what's great about wine is that, when you're in the wine world, we have friends that are in the wine circles, and we're generous with each other.
Yes.
And if
Yes.
we know that we got people that aren't really into the wine thing, maybe
You
we
pick a different bottle. Yes.
alligator arms. Oh, I can't reach that cellar anymore. It's like, yeah, let's not do that one. Let's save that one for the customers that
Who
that
appreciate it.
really appreciate it or know
Yeah.
they should
Yes.
appreciate it, whatever.
Yes.
Uh,
It's called Pearls to Swine.
Pearls to swine. Yeah, you got it. Well, it's been great chatting with you guys and catching up. Thank you all very much. Brian, wonderful ideas and topics. Setsuko, always great to see your name in Japan. Man, we missed Japan. Trying to get there next year, Setsuko. 2026, me in Japan. Imagine it because I'm hoping I can do it. Teresa, great to see you again.
And thank you for us, keeping us low-level wine drinkers.
Us.
Who have friends around who just want to enjoy company.
Hell yeah. You look great. You look great, Teresa.
Thank you.
Natalie, always wonderful. Your friend that you introduced us to in Nebraska has become a big supporter. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. She doesn't get to watch on the same nights, but she's still enjoying your wines all the same. So
I love it.
she's the one that is that would be potentially going with me on the Napa trip if we. Yeah, so we're looking forward to hearing more about the details.
How come we don't know your dogs, Natalie?
Oh my God. And he only whines when I get on. Like the whole, 2 hours we've been talking. No.
Probably can hear the microphone buzzing or something. It's like
Yeah.
Cool. Hi, buddy.
Yeah. He's a corgi.
Corgi, Queen's dog. I love it. Kent, great to see you, buddy.
Good to be seeing you. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you soon. You're going to be at Pinot tomorrow. Great.
Yes.
Make sure you get your welcome glass of champagne. DeHoors is going to be there tomorrow night. Pouring champagne from Magnum. I got those into the refrigerator.
I may just park there.
We'll get a chair for you right next to their table. They'll appreciate that. All right, guys. Take care, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.